fastest way a room of happy people turns sour you've witnessed. Story 1, we had to work on a holiday, but management didn't, so there was nobody to unlock the building. We waited outside from 7 a.m. until 7:45 and were told that if we didn't get in by 8, we could go home. 7:55, the manager shows up and lets us in. Story 2, bad snowstorm, started about 4 a.m. a few years ago. My coworkers and I were texting each other thinking, no way would they make us come into our job today. We are non-essential workers. We're all home waiting for the email to go out regarding whether or not our boss would give us the day off. Email finally goes out around 7:30 a.m. saying that we would have a shorter day, but everyone must show up for work by 9. So I layered up, cleaned off my car, shoveled out my parking spot, and headed to work on very precarious roads. I got to work on time and was greeted by my coworkers who were all pretty happy just to not have gotten into an accident on the way over. All of the clients and meetings have been canceled, so there was a party-like atmosphere. Just as we were talking about playing charades, we get another email from the boss saying, because road conditions were so bad, they were closing the agency after all, and everyone had to go home. This was 20 minutes after we had all gotten there. I have never seen 20 people all scream, "Are you kidding me?" at the same time before. It was absurd, and everyone was pissed. Family gathering was going great until the host realized she was missing thousands of dollars worth of jewelry. She started accusing everyone of being thieves until her husband said he put it away without telling her. Story 3 was on a team about 15 people for a special project for a regional internet service provider. During the bi-weekly team meeting, the manager was super pumped about how far ahead of schedule we were due to some new processes we came up with. After about 20 minutes of attaboys, the manager concluded with telling us all we were being laid off in the same tone of voice she used for the whole meeting, issuing a bunch of praise. Most of us awkwardly laughed for a couple seconds, thinking she was joking. She was not. Story 4, not exactly a room, but our plane landed home after my company spent a year in Iraq. Our company commander previously told us to tell our families that they shouldn't come out to the tarmac to welcome us back because it would be a circus and you'll just see them later anyway. Stepping off the plane, who are the first and only people we see? Our commander's wife, 3 kids, parents, grandparents, brothers, and numerous cousins' friends. Story 5, one day at work, we had an hour meeting followed by a planned pizza party as a reward for meeting some safety goal. They'd been telling us all week not to worry about food because they were getting pizza. Well, after the meeting, we're sitting around waiting for the pizza to get there when Outboss comes in and tells us there was a failure of communication and no one actually ordered the pizza. If you want to see 50 factory workers go from excited to murder ready in less than a second, that's what you tell them. Story 6, I was on a Chicago to New York flight. We all get on the plane, but we're delayed taking off due to a heavy storm going on. About 20 minutes in, everybody was still pretty calm until the pilot announces they're working on getting our baggage loaded because it's been sitting on the tarmac this entire time. The entire plane looks out and sees all our luggage just sitting there in the pouring rain uncovered and starts freaking out. Story 7, in grad school, we were gathered in a room to hear about how the last term of classes in the program was going to be cut due to a new law regarding educator requirements for the state. Everyone was stoked because it was going to save us like $5,000 to $8,000. Then they told us that due to state budget cuts, our total tuition was going to double. Story 8 was bartending on one of our restaurant's busiest days. Place was packed and manned, and a boy of about 9 couldn't stop wrestling and giggling. The man about 30 years old started repeatedly yelling, "I'm gonna grab your penis." Yeah, the whole place dropped dead silent. Mother grabs the kid and says they need to chill out. Story 9, in Portugal during the World Cup. Get there early to find a street bar in the center with a big screen. Place is soon packed. England start really well, and everyone is singing and laughing. All of a sudden, the bar up the road erupts in a massive cheers. Lots of people go out into the road to see. Apparently, someone just dropped an entire tray of drinks. We all laugh and go back to watching the game. 10 seconds later, England score. Our bar erupts, and we spill into the street. The bar up the road is deadly silent now. Weird, the game starts again, and the bar up the road starts shouting again. Nothing in the game. What's going on? People look up the road again. Can't quite work it out. Then a really bad tackle goes in, and the penny finally drops. Our bar's TV is the only one using satellite, and all the other bars have cable. Our feed is about 20 seconds behind everywhere else. Every exciting moment is audible about 20 seconds before we get to see it. I've never seen a bar empty so fast in all my life. Story 10. This is more of a mild story, but still very uncomfortable. It was at work during break. A whole bunch of us were outside smoking. One guy asked my coworker if he has any kids, says that he likes to dress up as Santa for the young ones. So my coworker tells him I have a daughter that just turned 20, and he replied with, "Well, she can definitely come sit on my lap." The silence after that sentence was so painful. Everyone ended up going back inside after that. It was super awkward. Story 11 bride, throwing up on herself and the dance floor during the first dance. She tried to hold it back, but the groom just pointed her towards the dance floor and she let her rip. Was impressive. Story 12. Camp, 150 kids headed to an ice skating rink. Everyone laughing, cheering, having fun. Sitting on school buses for 2 hours. The place is closed. Instant chaos, screaming, general unhappiness. Took us back the next day, but still the angriest I've ever seen. 150 kids. Story 13. Dude decided to pop the question to his girlfriend at a work holiday party. She said no. Both parties began to cry inconsolably. All the guys in the room tried to cheer up the guy with their tales of woe. All the women in the room took the woman aside and did whatever the female version of the above was. Went from a fairly happy event to a complete disaster within minutes. Plus side, while all of this was going down, no one was hitting the buffet, so I cleaned the up. Story 14. When I was a kid, there were about 68 families in our area who were a good group of friends, regular holidays together. Kids, all close friends too, and in the same classes at school, etc. The backstory was that one of the families kept noticing money going missing from a drawer in a master bedroom. They had an older son who was getting the blame, but was denying it. Fast forward a few weeks, and it's their younger kid's birthday, and everyone is at their house. Usual script was the kids' party would be late afternoon. Then in the evening, the kids would end up playing games in some bedroom, as the adults had a few drinks. Kids were happy because we got to stay up late with all our friends. Parents got to have a few guilt-free drinks. This night was going as normal until we're all shuffled out and home earlier than usual. We got the full story the next day. Once the kids were out of the way, the owners of the house had turned on their TV and pressed play on video. On screen, there was CCTV of the bedroom where the money had been going missing. Clearly in the video, you could see the wife of one of the other couples sitting in that very room, going into the drawer and taking money. Apparently, the switched off the video, said what you saw is exactly what it looked like, and asked that couple to leave. Everyone else left shortly after. Story 15. We were discussing road safety with the headmaster. One of the pupils pointed out that there had been a car crash right in front of her just as she had been about to step out onto the road. Earlier that week, which had been really scary, the headmaster laughed and asked her what she was wearing and if it had been her fault. Absolute silence for 10 seconds as he squirmed, and then mumbled, "I mean, were you wearing a ball gown?" Or, as if that had been what head meant, pathetic and excruciating, a 50-year-old man to a teenage girl. Story 16. I was helping to run a Christian disco when I was a teenager back in the 80s. Everyone was happy and dancing until I innocently played Tainted Love. The entire dance floor cleared in seconds because apparently Tainted Love is a gay anthem. Story 17. Drinking with colleagues from work. A guy was needling me and a friend about how out of shape we were was fair and lighthearted. Suddenly my friend blurts out, "Yeah, at least we have attractive wives." Needling guy's wife was standing right there. Story 18. This story took place my freshman year of high school. I was in an extremely small 5th period theater course with maybe about 10 or 15 other people in it. We were a very well-behaved class that acted more like a family than anything else. It was fun. However, one day, we got a substitute teacher who we'll call D. D was old. She had short white hair, permanent scowl, and always wore a jacket that looked like a duster. That particular day, she was angry, and you could tell she had a difficult time with the computer playing the movie, so she was yelling, fussing, and blaming her ignorance on us. In our class, we had several tech-savvy people, but she refused all help because we were too risky. Eventually, she gets it to work, giving us the chance to ignore her. Around 10 minutes into the film, someone realized she hasn't said anything in a while, so they look over and see her eyes opened, still and unresponsive. They turn to the rest of the class who were still focused on the movie and alerts them. Everyone begins to freak out. People are taking flash pictures of her, waving, ECT, everything to get her to respond. Eventually, she woke up, yelled at us, then went back to sleep with her eyes open once more. It was the freakiest situation ever, but the good news is that I never saw that sub working for my school again. Story 19. I was at a really fun party, which turned sour when one of the people in the room punched his pregnant girlfriend for no apparent reason. He mysteriously fell down a flight of stairs about 20 seconds later, with no witnesses to what happened. Story 20. Whole company 60 people gathered at a product unveiling cheerleading event where we were expecting surprising news bonuses. Instead, we were informed that the least senior and biggest dickhead was promoted to partner. All downhill from there. Story 21. The president of our company got completely plastered at our Christmas party. His speech started off funny because he was slurring hard and he was playing on it. Then he started talking about how he came from nothing and became something. Then he proceeded to tell us how, if it wasn't for us working so hard and keeping our clients happy, he wouldn't have been able to accomplish building his mega mansion for him and his family, nor would he have been able to afford his new Benz. awkward muttering, followed by him directing us to drink up and enjoy, because due to budget cuts, the future Christmas party bonus budget is canceled from here on out. Many of my coworkers relied on that bonus. No one was impressed, except for one person. The rest of us quit within the first few months into the new year. Story 22. I was once at a disco on Hogmanay in Scotland, and the DJ played God Save the Queen instead of Flower of Scotland at midnight. He was lucky he made it out alive. Story 23. I wasn't there, but when Metallica concert in New Delhi was canceled, 30,000 fans were already at the venue, super excited and waiting for 3 hours for the concert to begin. India is not exactly a hot destination for big musicians, so when Metallica came over for their first concert in India ever, people flew in from all over the country to attend. Metallica is pretty popular in India as well. I hear angry fans rushed the stage and broke equipment after the cancellation was announced. Edit for those asking why it was canceled. While the said 30,000 fans were waiting said 3+ hours, some of the security barricades at the stage gave way and couldn't be fixed, so the organizers cited safety issues and just canceled the whole thing. I think the organizers were arrested for breach of trust because the whole thing sounds shady, to be honest. Also, not all 30,000 fans broke stuff. Video of the raging edit too, in response to comments saying the place getting trash validated the safety concerns and cancellation. I disagree. One, the crowd was angry at the organizers and started raging after they canceled. They were more than happy to see Metallica, and I don't think they would have started attacking the band or something while they performed. Two, the organizers are at fault for not investing in better safety measures like stronger barricades, limiting tickets to a manageable audience size, or getting a bigger venue. This is not the first concert in time, and there are many established techniques to manage safety. I'm not supporting the vandalism, but think the safety concerns and subsequent cancellation were not the crowd's fault. Story 24. Movie theater. Parents and their kids went to go watch Princess and the Frog movie, and another movie came up with two people in a closet. Edit, I have no idea what the movie was. Sorry, guys and gals. The only thing I remember is a guy's coworker on top of a table or scanner printer with his pants down. You were able to see his bare. This was in 2009, so if anyone knows what movie it might be, please let me know because I'm actually curious as well. Edit, so I went over the movies people commented, and one it seems to be the closest to it. The movie theater does show older movies sometimes, so I'm guessing they still had the wanted film in their inventory. Kinda sucks I can't remember more, but then again it was 10 years ago. Also, wowza, I didn't expect this comment to receive this much upvotes. Thank you. Story 25. A little backstory. I was about 6 or 7 at the time. My dad was addicted to coke and meth, and was using both daily. He really hated me because I'm autistic and would constantly say hurtful things, hit me, etc. Sometimes he would do mean things to me, and then would go to play with my little brother, and he would tell him to shun me as an extra punishment. I would sometimes go days without talking to my family members as ordered from my dad. Anyways, this was a day where he was being particularly awful in the car on our way to Best Buy. When we got there, he put my brother on his shoulders, told him to ignore me, and started picking out games for the PlayStation that I wasn't allowed to touch. We got to the line, and I was so tired of it. I yelled, "I'm tired of you being mean. I want you to stop hurting me," and pretending to be nice. "Stop hurting me." The whole store went silent. He tried to laugh it off, but he got a lot of side eye, and one woman pulled her kid away from him. It was an awesome feeling, followed by a sinking feeling when the store remained quiet until I left with him. Story 26. Didn't witness it personally, but heard about it in the aftermath. Back in 2006, an Army unit was being extended beyond its original 12-month deployment to Iraq. This was the first extension for the surge, and before it became common. Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld traveled to the unit's home base to address the families of the soldiers and let them know why these soldiers weren't coming home, and the few that had made it home were having to turn around and go back. It wasn't a horribly happy crowd to start with, but they were willing to hear him out and be respectful. Apparently, he came in incredibly conceited about the whole situation and basically made a comment along the lines of they are soldiers and will do what they are told and like it. He was completely lacking in empathy or understanding and just expected everyone to accept and support the decision. This comment and demeanor immediately turned the crowd hostile, and the town hall was quickly canceled, and Rumsfeld had to be escorted out by his security detail. Story 27. One time, we were all making fun of people who don't believe in evolution until one girl pipes up and goes, "I don't believe in evolution." Dead silence until, in her divine wisdom, she adds, "If we're descended from apes, then why are there still apes?" Story 28. I worked as a contractor at a tech company, hoping to get hired on as a full-timer. There is only one day left on my contract, and the VP of engineering calls me in. Oh, good. She tells me that she was really happy with my work, and thanks for putting in so much effort to make it work. And, Good luck in the future, bye. So I was quite disappointed. Then they had a big company meeting, and as I was heading to the conference room, the VP stopped me and said, "Hey, sorry, this is for full-timers only." Okay, well, not only was I disappointed, but I felt like some rejected outsider too, after 2 months there too. So I'm sitting at my desk as my now-friend coworkers go into the conference room. 10 minutes later, they all walk out, loudly talking, and I asked my buddy what's going on. The company ran out of money and is bankrupt, going out of business as of today. So all my coworkers are suddenly unemployed and very unhappy. I, on the other hand, horribly feel great. Not because they all lost their jobs, but that I know that I wasn't rejected for a full-time job because my work sucked or they didn't like me. I felt grateful to have even had the contract at that point. Then we all went across the street to a bar and spent the rest of the afternoon there. It's amazing to see people in the morning working hard to hit deadlines and goals, trying to solve some technical issues. Then in the afternoon, just say it, who cares now, and go drinking. Story 29, 800 guys in a grocery warehouse being told it was going to be automated in 5 years. One fella yelled out asking if we fought the robots, and one, could we keep our jobs, lol. Story 30, back when I waited tables. Guy walking to his table had a massive heart attack and hit the floor. EMTs said he was dead before he hit the floor. I've never seen a restaurant go so silent so quickly. Story 31, I was there for the classic, took photos afterwards. Wish I had started looting like some of my coworkers. Congratulations, we've hit all our sales goals. The company is looking up, record profits. We all gather you here today to tell you our company is doing great. However, we're shutting down this facility to reorganize our business interests going forward. Hey, erase your separation paperwork. Worst thing was how the place was divided into 3 camps of people in denial or out and out crying at the news. B, people who saw it coming and stoically accepted it. And C, people who hated their jobs and were incredibly happy they were being let go and getting severance to boot. Story 32, we were all laughing about this guy who wouldn't quit messaging my friend and literally stalking her IRL, coming her job, etc. We were making jokes about his Facebook profile when she accidentally clicked on messages and saw this Bible of text, explaining how she was the reason that he hadn't killed himself yet. Story 33, 50th anniversary for my old rugby club. People were flying in from all around the world, 150 people ranging from late teens to 70s. We went on a big pub crawl, combined with my dad's 60th birthday. The night before the big dinner, one of the old boys fell over outside the local pub, hit his head on the concrete, and was knocked out. Ambulance was called, and we helped him get into it. Explain what happened to the medics, and off he went with his brother to the hospital. We laughed it off and went back to drinking, by far not the first time a player has gone to hospital after a night out. The night after at the big suit and tie dinner, one of the old boys was wondering where him and his brother were. So he called the brother and asked if he was okay. He wasn't. He had a brain aneurysm and had little to no chance of surviving. A room full of 150 tough as nails men and women went from having the time of their life to pretty much dead silent. He died 4 days after. Story 34, I was in a local independently run bookshop in my hometown, and it was full of people happily searching the labyrinth of books, and the owner was taking to one particular shopper about World War II history books. They seemed to be having a proper good chinwag, and it was kind of obvious that most of the other shoppers were tuned into their conversation. After all, it was a very interesting talk they were having about history. Right up until the shopper said something along the lines of, there's actually a lot of evidence to suggest that the Holocaust didn't exactly happen. The tension in that room went up so quick I could smell it. It felt like we were all walking underwater. Then the shop owner exploded and threw the guy out of the shop. We all perused a shelf in silence. Story 35, in high school. We were told that if the power was out for more than 15 minutes, we could go home, as it would be hazardous to have students in a poorly lit school. Cut to us counting the minutes when power was out and packing our bags at the 15th minute mark, happy as clams. As we were emptying our lockers in the halls and getting jackets on, power comes back, and the principal, blocking the exit, yells at everyone to get back to class. The collective groan and shouts of displeasure were something else. Story 36, I used to work for this new performance hall in NYC, and one morning during our morning meetings, one of our managers thought she was being unique and uplifting by ending our meeting with forcing us to say one thing I'm grateful to company name here for is. All 30 of us were pretty happy to just start the day, since it was a beautiful day out, but that soured our mood really quick. A bunch of people got hostile with answers like the wonderful healthcare we were given we have none, and the magnificent hours are, and inconsiderate. Story 37, that time my boozy aunt started getting on my teenage cousin's case about his pants sagging and gave him a wedgie, helping him pull them up during a fairly formal holiday dinner. He chased after her to give her a wedgie back. She was wearing a skirt and nothing under it. My cousin managed to pull it up over her head while making contact with deeply disturbing parts of Aunt Janice. Every fork in the place just froze while my aunt was standing there too drunk to understand why her skirt was over her head, and my cousin stared in horror at his hand that was wet or dirty, or God knows what, whispering audibly, but no. Story 38, not my story. But a friend of mine was attending a Christian Pentecostal summer camp a few years ago with some high school students and other adult leaders. For anyone who is unfamiliar with Pentecostal youth camps, the evening church services can get pretty lively and charged with emotion. People being slain in the Spirit, speaking in tongues, lots of worship and confessing sins, that sort of thing. There were probably a couple hundred students, so things may have gotten chaotic. Anyway, my friend and one of the other adult leaders get pulled on stage to confess sins to the audience. Not sure who thought this was a good idea, but maybe it wasn't planned. And the other adult leader, a nice guy in his 20s newly married, confesses to the packed auditorium of high schoolers hyped up on Jesus that he used to have with his dog. The evening service pretty much ended after that. Story 39, party at a woman's house. Everyone talking and happy. They mention a local business burned down. Drunk guy yells, "Must have been Jewish lightning." The entire party goes silent. Awkwardly glancing between him and the hostess, who just so happens to be Jewish, the man looks around, thinks for a moment, and realizes his mistake. They didn't hear him, so he yells louder, "Must have been Jewish lightning." Story 40, when the PlayStation 3's price was announced in a 2006 E3 keynote. Everyone, their games media, journalists, etc., is super hyped because yay, new PlayStation. They said the price and everyone in the room literally gasped. Story 41, zombie camp out for Girl Scouts. It was a full-on mess. Here are the issues. 1. We had to get up at 4 to catch a bus at 5. The bus the organizers provided, 2. Wasn't there. 3. Not enough supplies for cabin was buggy, moldy, wet, and the walls were canvas. 5. There was a fire in the kitchen. 6. There were about 200 of us. There wasn't enough food. We ate burnt-tasting potatoes. 7. All 200 of us had to use the bathroom at least once during the trip. There was one bathroom. 8. They didn't stock enough toilet paper or paper towels or open up the boys' restroom, even though only women and girls were there. Yeah, it was a shit show. Story 42, my company had a pizza party meeting for a particular department. The scuttlebutt was it was a thank you for a third-quarter project completion. The department of 35 people were excited for the attaboys and the pizza. After the lunch, the shoe dropped. They were all being laid off because even though they finished the project on time for this long-time customer, the customer had signed a contract with another company and were leaving. Unbelievable move by management. Reading these other comments, pizza seems to be the common way to give bad news to employees. Story 43, family up at the cottage. Some back-form fishing, others playing board games, others still just having fun, all British decent within 2 generations, and plenty of family still on England and Scotland. Breaking news, Princess Diana is dead. Story 44, not a room, but a stadium. Michigan Stadium, with roughly 110,000 cheering there, but's off on the verge of beating Michigan State for the first time in Lord knows how long. All we had to do is get a clean punt off, and we win. But of course we muff the punt. MSU recovers and takes it and scores for the win as the 110K people, once going ballistic with excitement, turn to dead silence. While I'm still bitter, I'm amazed I got to witness such a contrast. Story 45, my dad's family did a family white elephant for years. His youngest brother, a happy accident, was probably 30 when I was 15. He was notorious for always contributing not just dumb white elephant gifts, but actively bad and cheap gifts. This particular year was no different. It was my first year contributing, and I can't quite remember what I put in, but it was a solid gift despite my meager minimum wage fast food job pay. As the white elephant rolls along, everyone is laughing and hee-hawing at the gifts. We always made a rule that a gift could be stolen no more than 3 times. Being the broke, hungry high schooler I was, I had been targeting a Chipotle gift card, obviously a high-profile gift. I stole it the second time in the second to last round. My uncle stole it from me in the last round, and it was like a record scratch moment in a movie. Since it was a whole family affair, it was typical custom that the older folks take the bad gifts, and especially a faux pas to take a good gift when you contributed a bad gift. That is literally the only time I've seen my dad and 2 of my other uncles ever yell at someone else in their family. Pretty sure those are our last family white elephant. Edited making faux pas a thing. Come with me or be left behind. Pause out. Story 46, in Ton 7 Mars Volta played at White River Amphitheater. They got through about 4 songs and then quit in a rage on stage. Turns out the guitarist was having speaker issues and someone threw a bottle of on him. He smashes his guitar on the speakers and walks off mid-song. The lead singer says this is what you get when you build an amphitheater on Indian burial ground. We'll give 10,000 to anyone who brings me the head of that threw on us. Security ran out to them off, and we had a full hour and a half wait till our HCP came out. That was sour. Also, this is all available to watch on YouTube. Story 47, it was snowing hard one day, and everybody thought we would get an early release. We all waited eagerly for the announcement to come. Then the vice principal came on and told us we'd be getting out at regular time. It made everybody upset and ruined the day. It didn't help that the roads were so icy, people were getting into near crashes on the roads. Story 48, public speaking class. I was the instructor, student giving a speech on 9/11. He is failing miserably, so he decides to liven things up with a few 911 jokes. Girl in the back gasps, and then starts sobbing. Her aunt was a flight attendant on one of the planes. Story 49, chilling with some of the boys, and finding out that one of the boys that wasn't there had committed suicide. Edit, didn't realize that it said that you've witnessed. This didn't happen, but something moderately similar happened. Story 50, a friend of mine ended a party with the sort of that is banned by the Geneva Convention. He let rip. Everyone went home. Edit, thank you for the silver. Story 51, when I was a teenager, I went to a Philadelphia Flyers game with my dad when they hosted the New Jersey Devils. The Devils were up 3-0 midway through the first period. Then the Flyers clawed their way back over the next 30 minutes of ice time to tie it up going into the third, sending the crowd into a frenzy. The Flyers scored at the start of the third, getting everyone hyped for a big division win, and then the Devils scored 4 straight times in 10 minutes, blowing the Flyers out. Lots of unhappy people that night. Story 52, Montel Jordan concert. After the 4th time, he sang the first lines and first chorus of a different song, and then immediately turned it into This Is How We Do It. Story 53, my choir teacher told us we could plan our choir trip. We decide Valley Fair men. She said, no, we're not doing Valley Fair. It gets too boring. We went there 3 years ago. Haven't been since. Plus, we're going to place that IS 45 minutes away. So much for planning our trip. Story 54, once at my work, my boss arranged a pint, pizza, and paint night. The company no budget for overtime, so the bosses promised us that they would buy us booze and pizzas to encourage us to paint the giant store with them. So a big group of us volunteered just to get there, and the manager left early, promising the pizza and beer would be along shortly. It didn't. Story 55, yelled at my band's banquet. I was told it stood for band, is great, take it to state. We didn't go to state either. Chain restaurant I worked at in college just shut down with 0 notice to employees. Everyone showed up to that shift Monday, was greeted with chain doors. Story 56, I got one for you, was living with a friend and his fiancée. We were all 1 minute watching The Walking Dead. The next minute, total chaos. My friend and his fiancée were fighting, but not yelling, just bickering a little. We were all watching TV when she stormed out of the room. No one thought anything of it. Maybe she got a drink or went for a walk. Then we heard it, the sound of a gun. She had shot herself in the temple in the kitchen. 1 minute we're enjoying The Walking Dead. The next minute we're living in a crime scene. Story 57, I didn't personally witness it, but I overheard a tour guide in Cuba discussing the worst day he'd ever had when the tour suddenly went sour. He was showing a group of American tourists around Havana, and it was going well as usual until lunch when someone brought up politics, and they realized half the group was strict Democrats and the other half was strict Republicans. Apparently in a split second, it became a total gong show of them yelling at each other, and the guide didn't know whether to get in the middle or go get some popcorn. Guides are forbidden from discussing politics for this reason. Story 58, I was in a bar once when a massive brawl broke out. It seemed to go from all smiles and laughter to chairs and glasses being thrown all over the place in the blink of an eye. I don't even have any idea what kicked it off. Story 59, we play this drinking game where everyone writes down a card, take a drink if a good friend of mine, and I both lost a parent in the past few years, and she put down take a drink if you're a part of the Dead Parents Club. We both laughed hysterically, but everyone else who were not part of the Dead Parent Club became really sad really quick. Story 60, my dad didn't show up to my wedding. I told the DJ to skip the father-daughter dance. He did not. He announced it's time for the father-daughter dance. The whole crowd looks at me, shocked with their jaws dropped. Then he says on the microphone, oh, sorry, God. No one told me. I hid and took a shot of whiskey, dried my tears, and faced the crowd. Worst DJ ever. Story 61, my wife and I went to go see a comedy show. About halfway in, the comedian seemed particularly annoyed with one woman in the crowd because she kept looking at her phone instead of paying attention to him. At some point, he essentially stops the entire show and starts to pick on her instead. It started out simple enough. Look at this woman, her life is so important, blah, blah, blah. Harmless enough at first, and the crowd is on his side. At some point, she decides to defend herself and starts jabbing back, calling him a hack or whatever. Then he escalates his attacks by calling her a. It was so awkward that the entire audience went quiet. Even worse, some people in the audience started taking her side, got real ugly, and he never really recovered. The comedian apologized profusely and said he was out of line, but it was too late. Several groups of people outright walked out. We stayed until the end, but it was really uncomfortable. Story 62 spoiler for Avengers Endgame. Even though it's been months, a Holy wrote Iron Man dies on the back of all of the worksheets that were passed to us. As students, we obviously flipped it to the back because we wanted to see what awaited us for the next 50 minutes. Instead of hearing sighs, I just hear a slam and several upset faces. Story 63 was in the theater watching The Expendables opening weekend. On comes a pretty good-looking trailer for a horror thriller that takes place in an elevator. You can feel the energy in the air. We're all excited for this movie and wondering when it will come out. Screen goes black, and we see the words from M. Night Shyamalan. I can now say what 250-ish people groaning out of angry disappointment at the same time sounds like.